It was supposed to be a normal Thanksgiving in Maple Creek, Vermont. A tiny town with barely 900 residents, a place where everyone knew everyone, where the streets were lined with wooden porches, warm lights, and early snowfall. Thanksgiving in Maple Creek was not just a holiday. It was a ritual. Families cooked for days, neighbors exchanged pies, and the entire community gathered for the annual turkey walk on the morning of Thanksgiving Day. But in 2019, the traditions were shattered. By sunset on Thanksgiving evening, Maple Creek would become the center of a story so horrifying, so twisted, and so unbelievable that even today, people still refuse to talk about it openly. Because that was the year the Whitaker family disappeared. Not one member. Not two. All five of them. Vanished. Gone. Without a trace. It began like it always did. Early snowfall coated the trees in white, the smell of firewood drifted through the air, and the Whitaker family home stood glowing with warm yellow lights. Inside was 47-year-old Daniel Whitaker, a well-liked high school woodworking teacher, his wife Marlene, a local florist known for her kindness, their teenage children, 16-year-old Lily, 14-year-old Mason, and Marlene's elderly mother, Judith, who had been living with them for nearly a year. Neighbors said the Whitakers were excited for Thanksgiving. Daniel had bought a larger turkey than usual, a 28-pound bird, because his sister and her family were supposed to join them. But that family canceled last minute, leaving the Whitakers with more food than they needed. Marlene joked to her neighbor earlier that week that they would be eating leftovers until Christmas. No one knew that within 48 hours, there would be no one left to eat them. On Thanksgiving morning, the Whitakers attended the turkey walk like always. Multiple people saw them, smiling, laughing, walking hand in hand through the snowy trail near the Maple Creek Nature Reserve. Pictures captured them in the background, Lily tossing snow at her brother, Daniel pushing Judith's wheelchair, Marlene wrapped in a burgundy scarf. It was the last time anyone saw the entire family alive. That afternoon, around 3:40 p.m., Marlene called her sister to ask if they wanted to drop by for dessert later that evening. The call lasted only 4 minutes. Nothing sounded strange in her voice. No sign of stress. No hint that anything was wrong. At 4:10 p.m., a neighbor saw Daniel carrying firewood inside. He waved, the neighbor waved back. That moment would later be replayed in interviews countless times, because it was the last confirmed sighting of any Whitaker family member. By 6 p.m., the warm golden windows of the Whitaker house glowed softly. Smoke curled from the chimney. The turkey smell drifted outside. Everything appeared normal, peaceful, festive. By 11 p.m., the house was dark. Completely dark. At 8:20 the next morning, Black Friday, the Whitakers' neighbor, Ellen Carter, noticed the house was still dark. She also noticed something else. Fresh snow had fallen overnight, but there were no footprints leading to or from the front door. No tire tracks. No signs of activity since dusk. Ellen later told investigators it made her stomach tighten. Something felt wrong. When no one saw the Whitakers that day, not at the general store, not outside shoveling snow, not walking their dog, Ellen called Marlene's phone. No answer. She called Daniel. No answer. She walked over to the house and knocked. Silence. By Saturday morning, after 2 more failed attempts to reach them, Ellen called the police. When officers entered the home at 10:42 a.m., what they found made no sense. The dining table was fully set for dinner, plates of half-served food, untouched pie, utensils placed neatly, as though the family had simply stood up mid-meal and walked away. Daniel's chair was pushed slightly back from the table, as if he had risen quickly. Lily's phone was charging on the counter. Mason's gaming headset sat beside the couch. Judith's knitting rested on her lap blanket, draped over the side of the sofa. The turkey sat cold in the center of the table, perfectly carved. But there were no signs of struggle. No forced entry. No blood. Nothing disturbed. It was as if the Whitakers simply evaporated. Investigators combed through the home. They found that all the family's shoes were still arranged neatly by the mudroom door. Daniel's truck sat in the driveway. Marlene's Subaru was in the garage. Coats hung untouched on the hooks. No one had left through the front or back doors in the fresh snow. There were no footprints anywhere, not even paw prints from the family dog, Baxter, who was also missing. It defied logic. Detectives then pulled the footage from the neighbor's porch camera, which faced the Whitaker property. At first, nothing seemed odd. The lights inside the Whitaker home slowly dimmed during the evening. A faint silhouette occasionally passed behind the curtains. But at exactly 7:18 p.m., something changed. The house lights flickered. Then, for just a fraction of a second, the porch camera picked up a shape, a tall, dark figure standing at the edge of the Whitakers' driveway. Not moving, just standing there. And then, in the next frame, gone. Detectives enhanced the footage repeatedly, but the image remained too distorted to identify. Some experts claimed the figure was too tall to be a member of the family. Others argued it was a shadow artifact caused by the flickering lights. Still, the timing was chilling. Investigators checked all phone records. The last outgoing communication was Marlene's call to her sister at 3:40 p.m. Incoming messages after that were left unread. Daniel's phone pinged a cell tower one final time at 6:48 p.m. inside the house. After that, silence. The search effort expanded to the nearby woods, frozen ponds, and every cabin within a 5-mile radius. K9 units were brought in but lost the scent less than half a mile from the home, as if the trail simply ended. Drone footage revealed nothing. Thermal imaging showed no heat signatures. Interviews with neighbors yielded no unexplained vehicles, no unusual noises, nothing indicating danger. It became one of the most baffling disappearances in Vermont history. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed the family staged their own disappearance. But why leave the turkey on the table? Why leave phones, wallets, and keys? Why walk off into a snowstorm without shoes? Others suspected Daniel, that maybe a family conflict had turned deadly. But again, there was no evidence, no marks, no signs of violence. A darker theory emerged that someone had been watching the Whitakers. Waiting. Thanksgiving was one of the only days the entire family stayed home together. Whoever took them, if they were taken, knew exactly when to strike. There were whispers about the woods behind Maple Creek. Stories of an abandoned farm where a man decades ago was said to have lured travelers. Teenagers talked about the Harvest Man, a local legend about a figure who appeared around Thanksgiving, searching for families who stayed too isolated. Most dismissed it as superstition, but some investigators privately admitted that the lack of physical evidence felt unnatural. Something else came up too, a set of covered footprints found half a mile behind the Whitaker property, partially obscured by snow. They led into the woods, then stopped abruptly. No return tracks. No secondary prints. Just a path that led into nothingness. Almost as if the walkers had been lifted from the ground. By January, the story gained national coverage. Reporters arrived. Theories exploded online. Armchair detectives mapped out timelines, freeze-framed the porch camera figure, analyzed every inch of the Whitaker home. But nothing solid ever came. In March, 3 months after the disappearance, a hiker discovered something unsettling deep inside Maple Creek Forest. Baxter, the family dog, wandering alone, thin but alive. He wore his collar. He was trembling, dehydrated, and terrified. When vets examined him, they found something strange. His paws were clean. Too clean. As if he had been kept indoors. But where and with whom? Search teams flooded the area, but no sign of the Whitakers surfaced. To this day, no bodies have been found. No messages. No purchases. No phone activity. No sightings. Nothing. Just an empty home, a cold turkey dinner, a dark figure on a camera frame, and a dog who could not explain where he had been. Every Thanksgiving since, Maple Creek holds a silent vigil. Candles line the Whitakers' front porch. Families gather close, locking their doors earlier, checking their windows twice. Some say the family is still out there somewhere. Others believe they met with foul play. And a few whisper the same chilling phrase every year: Thanksgiving is the day families come together, and sometimes, the day they disappear together. No one knows the truth. But every year, when the snow begins to fall over Maple Creek, and the wind carries the faint smell of firewood, people swear they can still see it, a tall, dark figure standing at the edge of the Whitaker driveway. Watching. Waiting. And then, in the blink of an eye, gone.
This is True Crime Moment, where real crime gives real chills.